Welcome to Sunday's live stream, guys. Hope you're doing well. We are looking at the weather across the country, including with what's going on with Erin. One thing I think you got to watch too is what's happening out here. Is this our August surprise? Moving off of the west coast of Africa, heading east. National Hurricane Center says there's about a 30% chance of seeing some kind of development over the next 7 days. I don't think this has much of a chance moving into the lower 48. I'm going to show you why in just a second, but I still think you watch it just like you watch Erin. Across the North Pacific right now, some cooler air moving into the Pacific Northwest. We're also watching into Alaska. I'm keeping an eye on this area because if it gets warm up here, you're going to melt more of that sea ice, which will impact, I think, how your Arctic jet starts to set up heading into the fall and the winter. Still a long way to go before we get there. Let's talk about Erin, though, where this is going right now. The spaghetti plot's keeping it all out to sea. All the ensemble guidance keeps every one of them now pointing to the center of circulation staying off the coast. That doesn't mean we won't see strong easterly, northeasterly winds, at least right along the coast, especially out towards the Outer Banks. There could be some coastal erosion too, some high tides too, and rip currents all up and down the coast. This is the GFS ensemble guidance, still keeping it out to sea as well, so definitely good news. And the official forecast still has Erin as a major hurricane, turning just to the east of the Bahamas here, and then pulling a very strong curve off to the northeast. Again, right along the coast, especially from Florida all the way to Maine, I think you will see impacts in the form of waves and even some coastal flooding possible. Where does Erin go? Again, this is the water vapor. Look at it. It's getting caught up in this flow, if you will. There's a bit of a trough digging at it here. You're also looking at an upper high off to the east, really just opening the gate here. A decent ridge building across the country, too, across the central U.S. You've got a little bit of flow like this, so that's really working to keep Erin away from the lower 48. I'm going to let this go out in time because we're going to take you into the long range here. Look at this, all right? Once you get into next weekend, you got a couple of things happening. Number one, the system we just looked at that's way, way out in the Atlantic right now, possibly becoming some kind of tropical storm or hurricane by the time we get to next weekend. But we have this big trough digging in, some cool Canadian air trying to move into the East Coast. This has been showing up for the last several days. This right here, guys, bang, that lays the smackdown on any kind of tropical system moving into the southeast or the eastern United States. I mean, look at this. You've got a huge dip here heading into parts of your jet kind of going like this. So really picking anything up and keeping it out to sea. Also pulling some drier and some cooler air in with this type of setup. Beyond this, I mean, you really start to get out in time, but this still looks pretty tropical, pretty warm and humid across the south. But you're starting to see these northwest flow events that bring in some cooler air and some drier air into the Great Lakes, into the northeast. So maybe a taste of fall here with this type of setup as we get toward now Labor Day weekend. Still a long way to go before we get there. Let's talk about the short term and we'll walk through things. Some severe storms possible today, also into tomorrow. We're really going to kind of look into tomorrow. I know we're dealing with some storms today. A quick look at that. There they go as we head into this afternoon and this evening across South Dakota into Minnesota. Some of these could contain some damaging winds, some hail with these as well. An isolated tornado can't be completely ruled out. Those settle down tonight. Heading into Monday, though, there you go. Big storms firing across South Dakota, North Dakota, into Nebraska. Even more storms further to the east into Wisconsin. Not quite as strong, but there still could be a few storms. And then that drops off to the south with our front slowly sagging to the south, bringing a better chance of rain now into Kansas, even into parts of Missouri as we head into Tuesday. Temperatures hot here again tomorrow. My gracious, we're talking about 90s again from St. Louis back to Kansas City, even Oklahoma City, well into the 90s. A little bit cooler the further north you go as we move through the week. You've got 70s trying to work into parts of Wisconsin. Look at the lows, very close to 50 at least here across parts of Wisconsin. And then numbers get kicked back across Illinois and Indiana. We're back into the 70s versus the 90s, so it's looking a little bit better here. A quick look across the west. We've had some showers moving into the Pacific Northwest, but not nearly as much coverage. The big story out here is the heat across the southwest, and it's also relatively cool across the Pacific Northwest compared to what it's been lately. Boo, look at that, right? You look at that buzzsaw off the southeast coast, and that's a scary look. This is the NAM taking you out through Tuesday, but let's get you there first. We've got some storms as we move through this evening across parts of the Tennessee Valley, across parts of Illinois, down into parts of North Georgia. Some of these could contain some heavy rain, also some gusty winds. We've also got some storms moving through the northeast. I hear from several of you telling me it's super dry in Maine. You get a chance for some rain today. If you don't get it today, you're kind of out of luck for a while. We start to really push things off to the south tomorrow. So now our rain chances starting to increase somewhat, at least here from DC back into parts of Virginia, North Carolina, not a washout. And then here comes the next front. That would probably bring your next chance for some light showers across parts of the Northeast. But Erin, again, forecast to move this direction, staying out to sea. But look what's going on here. Can you see it right there? A bit of an easterly flow. That's what I was talking about. So some onshore flow into parts of North Carolina, Virginia, into the Northeast. That could include parts of New Jersey. This thing's going to make some big waves no matter where it goes up and down the coast. So a rough weekend into next weekend. I think maybe even all this weekend to next weekend up and down the eastern seaboard as we deal with the remnants of Erin as it finally pushes out to sea and is gone. All right, here's a look at your temperatures heading into Monday. Another hot one. Some cooler temperatures trying to work into the Northeast. We may wake up to 40s across parts of northern New England. I don't know. Maybe even into the lower 40s into some of these areas with that cool Canadian air building in. And then there's your highs as we head into Tuesday, staying hot across the Tennessee Valley. We may get close to 100 if you're in Little Rock. Let's really widen things out. Let's look from the top down. This is a look at the upper level pattern as we finish the video today. I think this is what many of you are interested in, and that is kind of that long range outlook. And here's the deal with these long range outlooks. Yeah, they're only as good as an operational run, but I also like to look at what's going on in the Arctic as far as our ice melt goes. All right, as promised, I'm going to deliver a little bit of that today, but a better update coming later this week. And about half of you aren't subscribers, so if you're watching, subscribe and come back. Tuesday, I plan on giving a much more detailed winter update. Once a week, we'll do that. All right, there comes Erin to the north. There's that big upper high that's across the west. Again, really keeping Erin away, and Erin's getting picked up by this trough, or at least expected to. There's your decent ridge out here in the central Atlantic, pulling Erin north. There's your weakness, right? You got a high here. It's going to split the goalposts, if you will, and then get sucked up and then move pretty quickly to the northeast in the westerlies. High pressure still continuing to dominate across the west. We've got this weak piece of cool air aloft swinging through parts of the northern U.S. That could bring some severe weather, maybe into Thursday and Friday. We'll keep an eye on it. And now we're starting to change the weather pattern up heading into next weekend. This looks a lot different. I'd say significantly different than what we're dealing with now across parts of the Midwest, down into the Southeast. We're starting to bring in some northwest flow here, much drier air, cooler air too. And again, as I said, anything that's moving across the Atlantic at this point, it's probably going to do more like this. But it's going to get caught up in this flow, and this trough would likely protect the U.S., I think, heading into next weekend and maybe even beyond. Now, as promised, look how warm the European is trying to take Alaska as we head into Thursday. Decent low here, a lot of southerly flow moving north out of the Pacific into Alaska. Really high heights here. That's some pretty warm temperatures. That could mess up that sea ice, okay? And look, this sticks around. This is the operational run taking you to the end of the month. Just like any storm, it's not written in stone. And that matters because, look, there's a lot of ice right now. In fact, if you look at how much ice there is, the southern extent of it today, if you back it up to last August, now, of course, this is a live video, so bear with me. Look how far north that was, right? August 17th. A lot more open ocean here compared to today. You saw the blistering heat that's coming, and I do want to show you something. In general, as we head through this time of year, the low point for ice is not now. It's going to continue to melt. This is last year all the way, look at this, guys, all the way to about, the 20th of September or so. And then we start to see the Arctic freeze up. Look at the snow starting to dot Siberia. This was actually the snow cover last winter. And then you started to get cold and the ice started to come back. That's what the orange is. Again, today, there's a little more ice further to the south. I think this is going to melt. And I think that because I don't know how it sticks around when you get that warm. It won't. It's going to melt. What does that mean for our winter forecast? It's one of the reasons I don't like to do winter forecasts. I mean, if you lose that ice pack, granted, if you kept the ice around, it's going to stay colder here. That cold air that starts to form as you get your snow in Siberia is going to come across that ice sheet a lot faster. However, one would argue, even if that ice melts at this point, correct? Let's do some physics here. The ocean is going to be colder right now. So as we see that freeze up, it's going to happen faster just because, water temperatures aren't as warm as maybe they would be compared to last year. What does that even mean in the end? Well, again, it could mean a colder Arctic. If that happens, you get a stronger polar vortex that could actually do the opposite of what you think. It locks the cold air into the Arctic longer, especially right now where the warm water of the Pacific, it's above average here. If you lock that cold air up here, especially if you get really cold, and if you've got a Pacific that's above average, which it is, you're going to see a really strong jet here. That Pacific jet just continue to scream into the Northwest, especially right in here. That's kind of what we saw last year. And what did that do? Not only did we get the Arctic air locked up, when it tried to move south, it just got fought tooth and nail with this strong Pacific jet that just screamed into the Pacific Northwest, into British Columbia, into Western Canada, and that shunted a lot of that cold air from moving south a couple of times. It didn't completely lock it up. We had some really cold weather last year. I don't know if we'll skip fall this year, but yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. A long way to go before we get there. It's just one of the little things I'm looking at this afternoon. That's why we're doing the live stream. If you're just joining, you can take it back from the beginning and check it all out. Thanks for watching, guys. All the OGs, I see you there in the chat. Thanks for coming by again, and I will see you next time. I'll be back tomorrow with another update. Take care.